Hello, I am William Juarright,
And I'm Hattie.
and this is our podcast, HattieJo. So, this is kind of a finale in a sense. This is our last episode here in Durham, North Carolina.
Where it all began.
Yes, it is where it all began. We are on to new adventures in Phoenix, Arizona.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, I am excited as well. New area, get to explore and learn about the Phoenix area. And it's gonna be great.
It is gonna be great. And last week I was, so we're still in quarantine here in Durham. So we had virtual and socially distanced goodbyes for both your coworkers put one on for you, as well as my coworkers put one on for me. And so last week was really bittersweet for me, just feeling like, oh, this is the last time. I had to go in and turn in my keys, my keys and laptop. So for the walk back, because of course Duke parking is like the bane of my existence, but it's about a mile walk from where I can park to where my office is. So on the walk back, I walked through campus and I walked through everything and just was like taking a final farewell tour. And it was really beautiful because it was great weather and there was nobody there.
Yeah.
But that just kind of added to the bittersweetness of like, it's done, it's quiet, like the chapter is closed. So this weekend I was like, kind of like bummed about it, but now I'm kind of full speed ahead to the new things and very looking forward to it and really excited. So
yeah, it's funny. Like we are definitely on this new journey. And it's definitely in talking about like emotions, like the emotion of like nervousness.
Mm-hmm. At the beginning of the podcast, I was gonna say like, "What are we doing today, brain?" in the hopes that you would say the same thing we talk about every day, Pinky, emotions. But I chose not to. But then I got to do it right now. So yeah. Anyway, so the emotion of nervousness.
Yeah, the emotion of nervousness. And it's funny you talk about like last week's kind of like goodbyes to like some of our friends and family, friends and family. Because really like all of my coworkers that I've worked with over the past 5 years, they become like a kind of work family.
Mm-hmm. The Duke family.
Yeah, the Duke family. And we like got together and I was like just very nervous about that, like saying goodbye to them. We're still gonna be in each other's lives, but it's gonna be different. It's gonna be different, not like going into work and seeing Leslie come over and with a smiling face or enjoy and like, hey, how was your weekend? Or like my weekly meetings with Jackie. Like these are things that over the past like 5 years I've kind of grown accustomed to. Mm-hmm. Or even like coming in and hearing Tony's weekends about with his kids.
Yeah. Like I feel like I know Tony's kids. Just from all the things he tells you and then all the things he tell me.
And like his great weekends of like volleyball matches and like flag football games on the weekends. So it's like he kind of gives me a play-by-play of what all happens. And it was just like it was great memories that we created, but it also creates like some nervousness. And it's funny, like I don't really think of it as like, I think my nervousness turns into like a little bit of anxiety about like, so what is it going to be like at my next workplace? Mm-hmm. Is it going to be like, am I going to be able to find this like kind of family that I'm friends with, that like we share each other's lives with each other? Mm-hmm. Or will it be more of a like, am I going to have to like try and create like a friend group like outside of work that like
where am I going to find that sense of community? Yeah. And it's interesting to me because I definitely identify and have been feeling a lot of the latter part of what you just said about anxiety and nerves for the new position. but I would not have described my feelings of going towards my virtual goodbye happy hour or saying goodbye as nervousness. So it's interesting to me that you describe yourself as being nervous when we went to that socially distanced goodbye lunch with your coworkers. Did you mean like you were nervous for that? Because you said I was nervous for saying goodbye. Like, was it just because that means one thing is ending and something is new, and you're nervous for the new thing, or was it more like nervous for the saying goodbye part? So I was a little confused when you said that at first, like, or not confused, but surprised.
Oh, why were you surprised? Like, I feel like it was. I feel like because it's a little of both. Like, I am nervous to say goodbye to people that like I've grown to be very fond of and work with a lot. So that nerve, like to me, like I was nervous about like saying goodbye.
I guess that's where I just don't share that, because I was not nervous about it. I might have been dreading it because I'm like, oh, this is a bummer, this is sad, this is bittersweet, or like I'm gonna miss them, but I wasn't nervous.
So what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, so when you, I guess when somebody says nervous, what do you think of?
I think of like butterflies in your stomach. Oh, I'm worried about this. I'm anxious about it, or just like that kind of jittery feeling, or like I don't know how it's gonna go. It could go one way, it could go another way. Like, to me, that kind of encapsulates nervousness.
Okay, so what was the feeling that you got when you talked to your coworkers?
I didn't feel like butterflies in my stomach or anxiety about it, or like, oh, how's it gonna go? Like, I knew basically how it was gonna go, and I knew that it was gonna be bittersweet. Like, I knew that I had nothing but love to bestow, and I was confident that they would reciprocate that, and I was looking forward to verbalizing that to them because they're important to me, and it was very heartwarming to hear what they had to say to me, so I enjoyed that. But it's like, it's enjoyable to hear how much you mean to someone and to express to someone how much they mean to you, but it's in this context, it's not like fully enjoyable because it's also sad. Like, I'm going to miss them. So that's why I describe my experience more as bittersweet, where I enjoyed it, but it was like a double-edged sword. Like, we're only going through this because I'm leaving, and then I won't get to enjoy your presence on the daily anymore. So it's like good times were had, but it's also marking this moment of now we're parting ways, and so yeah, I just was interested. I was curious that you used the word nervousness, and so you feel like you were nervous.
Yes, I was nervous.
But I was just gonna say that I think, like I said, the second half of what you said, I definitely feel for the new position, and I think one thing that makes this transition interesting is that, sure, I've lived out towards that way, but Colorado is still has a lot of similarities to Arizona, but I'm sure has a lot of differences. So we're both going to be living somewhere completely new to us. Mm-hmm. We're both going to be doing jobs that are completely new to us, because it's not only is it, oh, I'm doing a job at a new company, it's a new role. Like, it's a new job. It's not like, oh, I taught at a school before and now I'm teaching at a school just in a different state. Yeah. Like, it's the first time you're teaching at all in this type of capacity. And likewise for me, like, sure, I've done science before, but this is a different application. I've never had like a real job in this type of sense. So yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of new for the both of us. So it's really hard in my mind to come up with what is it going to be like? I guess when I'm nervous or anxious, my mind goes through a million scenarios of like, what if this, what if that? Well, maybe it's going to be like this, maybe it's going to be like that. And part of the thing that's been a little tough for me is I just have so little knowledge to even make those hypothetical scenarios in my mind. I think to myself, well, what if I hate my job every day? And I'm like, well, why would I hate my job? I don't even really know what exactly I'll be
job is
doing.
gonna
Like,
be,
or I might imagine myself doing this, but I'm like, how likely is that? I have zero idea, right? Or like, how likely is it that I'm going to love every single second? Like, zero idea. That's, so because I have so little prior knowledge to draw on to inform my expectation, it's like really tough for me to, well, I was just about to say it's tough for me to handle the anxiety, but I actually think it's been liberating. Because normally when I have, like I said, when I have anxiety, I think through all the million hypothetical scenarios, but it's like, I can't do that because I have no prior knowledge.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, my mind is like, well,
it is
what it is. Guess you can't obsess over every tiny little thing that might be. Like,
very true.
So it's been tough for me, tough in the sense of that I'm used to that progression and I'm used to dealing with my anxious feelings in that way. So I'm adapting to having to deal with them in a different way, but I might be learning that it's better this way. I don't know. So how have you been handling it? Like when you feel these nervous and anxious feelings, what does your mind do?
Yeah, I don't really I feel like I only get like nervous when something's like very close to happening. So like for instance,
so you weren't nervous for the move last week because it was still too far away?
Yeah, I was not nervous about the move, but last week.
Even though you knew it's happening.
Yeah, and I'm not really nervous about it now. Like I feel like we have a plan set for it to go. Like
yeah, I was nervous about the movers and everything, but now that they came yesterday, boxed everything up, came today and loaded everything on the truck, I feel great. It all went according to plan. It went better than planned.
Yeah. I was never nervous about it because I'm like, we're paying them for our service. I expect them to provide the service that like they have agreed to.
They are professionals.
So I was never really nervous about that. I'm not really like nervous about like the new job.
You're not.
I am not.
That's great.
So it's like I would say for the most part I don't get like too nervous. I have noticed though that sometimes like before like athletic competitions that like kind of have like some type of like importance, I will get like a tiny bit nervous at the very beginning.
And what does that feel like to you?
Well, just like it's kind of hard to explain. It's just kind of a rush of excitement, and that like so like this rush of like these competitions, they don't really like mean anything because they're like intramural games and stuff like that. But there is like a competitive aspect of it, and that like I want to win, and like it is really different from. And
on his tombstone, I want to win. Like you and Michael Jordan, man. Like
I'm not there yet. He is a couple of sigmas back.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like at the beginning of like a competition or something, like probably like 30 to 45 minutes before I'll start feeling like nervousness. And those are really like, I would say like the first time we started dating, like the first like, I would say date we went on. I would say I was definitely like nervous, like that. I was nervous then, but like after we got like going on the date, like it was. I haven't been nervous since.
I'm so easy going.
So,
we're such a good match.
Yeah. So
I was a little nervous too, in an excited way.
Yeah. So I would say just like a little like rush of it, like adrenaline. I don't really think about like the outcomes as much. I just think about like this. I think I get nervous because like I think I do. Like, I think I get nervous because I care about it and I want to do good at it. And so there's probably been like a couple of like, anytime I'm doing something like a big project or something for the very first time, I would say I get a little nervous and that like I want it to go well, but like there's like a little rush of like adrenaline, like it's kind of go time. It's ready. Like I'm ready to perform, and so that is my like I would say like my nervousness becomes like a little rush of adrenaline, but like I get in my head like this is go time. Like it's time to perform and do my best and let the chips lie where they may.
So, do you get a similar feeling before things like interviews? Or would you? Is your experience?
Yes, it's similar. I would just say in interviews, like especially in like video interviews, I get nervous and then I start to ramble a little bit, just because of the nerves. But
yeah.
like.
But I my question is about the experience of the nervousness, because you sound, one thing that you said to me that stuck out to me was before athletic competitions, no matter how big or small I am, college, whatever, you tell yourself I'm nervous, all that means is I care and I'm excited and I want to do well. I think that's a huge mental toughness thing. Because I think a lot of people fall into the trap of like, I'm nervous, I want to do well, but what if I do bad, right? And champion Olympic gymnasts, Ali Raisman and Lori Hernandez, have mentioned similar things about like, when I get nervous, I think Shannon Miller too, maybe I'm wrong on all these people, but it's a common thing for them to, they'll say things like, when I get nervous, I tell myself I'm excited, right? Like, instead of allowing myself to interpret these physiological feelings as like, oh no, what if I do wrong, or I'm nervous, I'm not prepared, like what if I'm not prepared, they interpret it as, oh, this is my body's way of saying this matters to me and I'm excited about it. And so I think that's just a totally different mental paradigm to be in when you're trying to, like you said, perform and do your best. So it sounds to me like before the athletic stuff, you're very good at channeling that adrenaline in a positive way. Yes. Because of the mental things you say to yourself.
Yeah, and I would say that like I say to myself like before a competition, this is because I care. Like this is like through working with Greg Dale and like through listening to him talk with like our student athletes and captains and stuff like that, that I now understand my nervousness to mean that like I care a lot.
And that kind of goes back to my comment about like all sorts of gymnasts. I'm sure people in other sports, like this is a common sports psychology thing. It sounds like Greg Dale is saying the exact same thing that I had just said. But my question is though, do you have that same experience before a non-athletic endeavor that means a lot to you, like an interview? Because, or like, is your mindset the same of like, okay, I'm harnessing this adrenaline to go perform? Is my question making sense to you?
Not really. I will try and answer it. I think the best way I can. I like before an interview, like I never really think about like, I take my like nervousness and I like just take it to be like, hey, like just breathe, take like a deep breath and just kind of like, I guess for like pump myself up, take a deep breath, relax and kind of calm myself before getting ready to do the interview or getting ready to do the project. Just kind of, all right, specifically on like interviews, like just like the nervousness kind of creates like a rush of adrenaline, and like before like everything, like before the interview starts, I'll be like, all right, like I perform best when I like relax and calm down. So like just try and calm the nerves.
Interesting. Cool. So what other, you mentioned that sometimes when you're nervous you ramble. Is there any other behaviors that you do when you're nervous?
Not that I can think of. Not really. Are there any behaviors that you exhibit when you're nervous?
I think I do a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily say I ramble. I think in general I'm a pretty long-winded person. Like on the spectrum I fall on the longer-winded side just in general. But I think if I'm nervous, like for instance on a first date or something, I might make more bad jokes than usual. I say it that way because I think all my jokes are pretty funny, but I know not everybody else agrees. So my hit rate in terms of like, do other people agree, is a lot lower. Yeah, like I'm just throwing it up there and just airballing. Yeah. But with athletics, with gymnastics, or when I ran track in high school, when I was nervous, I'd do a lot of like this, or like stretching my wrist, stretching my ankle, just like physical tics almost. That I was stretched, I was warm, like none of that was going to change. It wasn't going to make a difference, but I just needed something to do with that nervous energy.
Well, it's funny that you bring up like competing in like athletic events, and it just got me thinking, like for the most part, like I've always gotten like nervous during like before athletic competitions, but I don't know if my teammates could like
pick up on
anything, because I've always been like around like teams, like I've always been in like team environments, and I think like just because of my like mentality and personality, I never wanted to give off a sign of like, oh, like he's nervous, like we need to worry about him.
Well, and I feel like you're very even keel.
Yeah.
In general, I feel like some people are more dynamic in their ups and downs, and I can see how on a team environment, it's like, oh, he's hot tonight, this is great, or like, oh God, like we need to get him up tonight. Whereas like I feel like you are generally much more even keel normally. So if it was an important competition and you might have been feeling nervous, you're not one to really display that anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. But so another thing that would happen to me, and this might be a little bit of an overshare, but I would get the feeling of having to pee really badly. And so before races or before events, I especially remember this in high school with Jen, because sorry Jen, I'm outing you, but she would have the exact same experience. And you'd be like, oh my God, we have to pee so bad. So we'd like go to the bathroom, and of course we had just gone to the bathroom like 20 minutes prior or whenever, so we didn't have to pee, it was just a nervous feeling. But I remember like getting into my blocks and being like, oh my God, I have to pee so bad. And then I would run my race, and at the end of the race it's like, I don't have to pee anymore. Right? Like it was just a feeling. But a funny story about that is one time we were at the state gymnastics meet, and it was beam. And so at this meet, our team had not qualified as a team. So they have a competition, and the teams go, but if you qualified as an individual, you're kind of tacked on to the end of a rotation. So I think it was me and Jen and a couple other gymnasts from our high school. But you could qualify on just certain events. So Jen and I qualified on all around, but our other teammates had only qualified on one or two specific events. So I think for beam, it was just her and I. I could be wrong, there might have been a third gymnast from our team. But anyhow, it's like, I'm coming up on beam pretty soon. And I'm like, oh God, I have the nervous pee feeling. I better go to the bathroom, right? So Jen and I go to the bathroom, and like, we're our high school selves, like, it's not like we were taking extra time, but I'm sure we were talking, right? Next thing I know, Mary Beth, Jen's mom, who's our coach, is like running, like, Hattie, like, where are you? You're up on beam. The judges are ready to salute you. And I'm like, what? Oh no. So I like run out there. I'm just like saluting, getting ready to go on beam. And it's like, normally you're standing there. The person before you has finished. You know, that's when I'm standing there rolling my ankle, doing this, like waiting for the judge to salute me, taking my deep breath. This judge salutes me. I salute. Take a deep breath, calmly mount the beam, but it's like, I'm like running.
Pressure and then
just hop on the beam. And I remember like, my heart was racing that whole routine. Like, I did not have my wits about me at all. Like, I don't know how I stuck
before.
Medium. Like, I wouldn't say it was my best routine, but it certainly was my worst routine. I didn't fall off, like, I didn't make any major errors, but I also wouldn't say that, like, I made, because there are certain skills on my routine that I have to focus to do to my best. Like my switch leap, if I'm not focusing on it, I'm not hitting 180. So I'm sure my switch leap didn't hit 180, right? But oh well, like
yeah, you didn't ball.
Yeah, I didn't ball. Like, I didn't embarrass myself. It was fine. But I just remember like ending, like doing my dismount saluting and being like, did that just happen? Like, now I'm ready to do my beam routine. Like, I just didn't have a moment, that chance to collect your thoughts, you know? So I'll never forget that. That was really funny.
Some nerves.
Yeah. Chalk that one up to the nerves. Yeah, so what's one of the things you're most nervous about for our move to Arizona?
I mean, I'm most nervous that like you're gonna get like nervous about something and that's not really like, that's gonna be fine. I would say that's what I'm most nervous about. That like, there's gonna be something that like you're nervous about.
That I'm nervous about, or that I stress about, or like
that you're nervous about, and that will like turn into like something that like causes you more stress than it needs to.
Oh, you're such a caring person.
Yeah. What are you most nervous about?
I'm most nervous about finding that kind of community feeling, and I realize it will take some time, right? You can't just move somewhere new and instantly have a good community. So I'm really glad that we're going together, because at least we can be the familiar face for each other. Because it's also not like we know people there. Like, you have one friend that's like
from college,
but it's not like they're your best friends that you've kept in close contact with, right? So yeah, I recognize that it will take some time, but I'm nervous because of like coronavirus and everything that might be extended out further.
Oh yeah, it will definitely be extended out further.
Yeah. So I guess that extends to kind of nervous about demonstrating that I'm a valuable member of the team. Like, I'm a new person, right? And so it's like, I want to pull my weight. I want to show that I was a good choice in being hired. Like, I want to do a good job. And I worry that it will be hard to, you know, take initiative and like do the extra stuff when we're all working from home and we're not really having some of that FaceTime and that interaction. And also because my boss was saying that a lot of their big projects are kind of on pause. So, you know.
Yeah, it's not gonna, like, some of the, getting thrown into the fire as opposed to like kind of being eased into the fire.
Yeah, it's gonna be really weird. So, but it is what it is. Yeah. So, in your mind, is there a difference between nervousness and anxiety, or are they synonyms?
I think they're synonyms, but I think anxiety, like, it's a much longer lasting feeling. And I think the anxiety is more of like talking to yourself like about the situation and kind of going about the different like scenarios, whereas it's as opposed to nervousness, it's just kind of like a feeling that like comes and like it's not gonna last. It doesn't have a lasting like extended stay where I feel like anxiety is something that like sticks with you for a longer period of time.
I think that was very well said, and I think you hit the nail on the head about anxiety being more of a mental thing. Because I definitely think that you can be nervous about something and have anxiety about it, and maybe each one feeds the other, right? But I do feel that nervousness is more of that physiological bodily response, like feeling the tummy tingling, the butterflies in your stomach, having to pee. Like those are all physiological body feelings.
Yes.
Like you feel it in your body. Your heart is pounding. You're sweaty, right? But when, like with anxiety, you're not necessarily having those bodily feelings, but you are having the mental game of like, what if this happens? What goes like all the million scenarios. And so when you're nervous, you can kind of create anxiety by thinking like, oh, what if I go, you know? So I definitely think they kind of go hand in hand and sometimes reinforce each other, but I do think that they're distinct.
Yes.
And I think, you know, I said you can have nervousness and anxiety about the same thing. I also think you can have anxiety about something and not be nervous, as well as the vice versa. Yeah. So just thought that was on topic to discuss.
That was very on topic. All right.
Is that all you want to say about nervousness? Oh, I have one other question for you. So you're just a very people person. I think you're very perceptive, high emotional IQ. What are behaviors that other people do that give you the notion that they are nervous?
So I would say like if somebody like say like we've done a project and say we're working on a project and there's like a random thing that like we want to make sure that we have strawberries with dinner, right? Like we want to have strawberries for dessert. And I've communicated, hey, we like are on task. We like everything has been ordered. We've discussed this and we're good to go. And then like an hour or a day before, like we've already had the meeting, and then like you get a call like, hey, do we know for sure that we have like the dinner menu is set and like everything is good to go? It means that somebody is nervous, like, and they're trying to like focus that energy into something that like something that they know they can control.
Yes.
Or say like sometimes when somebody's like over like talking,
the rambling that you mentioned.
Yeah, like it's just like, all right, like you need to just calm down a second. Especially if I know you, like if I've like interacted with you a lot, and like say most of the times you're like a medium talker, but then like
suddenly you're
suddenly all of a sudden we have like a project that we're working on together, or like out of the blue you're just like talking more and like you're bringing up like more personal situations where it's just like we don't normally talk about this, and like you're bringing this up now, like this is obviously something that's on your mind and that like you're nervous about. So yeah, those are like for me the two, in terms of like a work environment, the two main things that I see as like when people are like showing their nerves, in terms of like a physical, like recognizable sign. I would also say like just from a sports like frame mind. And whenever somebody like, and of course you have to like play with them like to kind of understand. But whenever somebody starts doing something that is like completely like
not
out of
normal
character, it's like what like.
Can you give an example?
Well, just I can't really give an example because it's just like, you just don't like you just do something that like you normally don't do. Like there are certain things that you do, and then like
this isn't one of them.
Yeah, and like, and it's not like, and it's because most of the times it happens because the intensity of the game like goes from like, hey, we're just playing around, running up and down the court, getting a little exercise in until like there's either like really competitive guys that get on the court.
So you're describing pickup basketball.
Yeah, I'm describing pickup basketball, and like just an increase in the intensity of the game, whether it be from like the physical like ability of the players or like the competitive nature and being like, I really want to win this game. Like whenever those two factors, like whenever they're ratcheted up to another notch, you can definitely tell some people get more nervous, and it can have an effect on the way that they play. But yeah, so those are kind of the things that I notice about people when they get nervous. What about you?
Yeah, my list would probably be very similar. I think either rambling or just talking a lot or talking quickly. And I kind of view the making a lot of jokes as a form of the rambling. It's like nervous verbal stuff to fill the space, right? Mm-hmm. And same with giggling. I think a lot of people will laugh or giggle, not inappropriately, but just in a way they normally wouldn't if they weren't nervous. The fidgeting, you know, whether it's rolling your wrist, whether it's like picking at your nails, or, you know, some people are like jiggling their leg constantly. Like, I think some people do that. Like, I'm instantly thinking about taking exams, and there's that one person that's always like jiggling their leg. I do think that sometimes people do that normally. It's not a sign of nervousness, but I think it can be a sign, or like, you know, taking their pencil and like fidget it, like some type of fidgety, small little action. But I really think that what you said describes it best, of people just acting outside of the norm.
Yeah.
Because I think there is such a broad range of how people act in general. It's hard to say, oh, laughing more or talking more, because right, especially if you don't know the person, they might just be a chatty Cathy, they might just be a silent Sam, like, you know, so it's hard to say this person talked a lot, they must have been nervous. Or conversely, I think some people, when they're nervous, shut down and are just very quiet and observant.
Yes.
And so that's a complete opposite behavior, right? But it's just outside of their norm.
Well, it's funny, like when you bring up the term like outside of their norm, it just makes me think of like a lot of times in my past, like working with football, like coaches that are put in like high intense, high stress like situations, they can oftentimes like act outside of their norm. And it makes me
the whole team does it.
Well, it's not
I'm
like
sure.
The whole team just like kind of.
I mean, I'm sure the whole team picks up on the fact that like, whoa, coach is not acting in normal.
Well, no, I think that the team typically like is like, oh snap, like coach is really upset. Like
so the team picks up on the fact.
Yeah, but I think like the coach's like behavior can be a result of like nervousness, and whether like there are a whole multitude of reasons why coaches would be like nervous, whether it be from like the intensity, like maybe I'm going to lose my job, like what is my family going to do, like
there's a whole
I really want to win this game, like it's a close game, so like those all of those variety of reasons can be a reason why a coach gets nervous, and that coach can then like just just kind of go from A to Z in terms of the intensity scale. And it honestly has become a situation where, like, as players, you see it as, oh, well, somebody's just going crazy today. But, like, now, like, looking back on it, well, there could be, like, that could be a sign that, like, the coach is really nervous about something. Like, there's something on his mind that has got him, like, agitated or, like, creating this nervous vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Or the nervousness could be the reason. The nervousness,
Yeah, he's
it
got
could be
anxiety about something.
The nervousness could be creating this, like, behavior.
Right.
And it's not simply just me that he hates me today.
It's not just me. True. Nice. Well, do you have any other last thoughts about nervousness?
See you, North Carolina. I do not have any other thoughts about nervousness.
Good. Awesome. Me either. Well, that's what we're doing.
Deuces. See you guys in Arizona.
In the